How's it going, everybody? It's Robert and Austin with Gas Money. And on today's episode of the podcast, we've got a very special guest by the name of Ethan Bodtker. 5 years ago, Ethan made the decision to move to Chicago to take up a sales job with a pest control company. And this year, he's looking at over 30 million in revenue as an owner in the same company. Ethan, we're super happy to have you on today. And I guess to start out, go ahead and tell us about Ecoshield and how your roles changed over the past few years and just what your story is.
Yeah, so I guess going back to even 6 years ago, I was a personal trainer at Lifetime Fitness, right in the Detroit suburbs, and I love working out. But after a couple of years of doing that, I'm like, I love it more as a hobby than as a career, especially for the lifestyle that I wanted to do. Fast forward to 2017, and one of my good friends, now he's one of my best friends, business partners, by the name of Jared Maverick. He reached out to me, and he reached out via Facebook. And I'll never forget, on his shoulder was a monkey with a beautiful ocean in the background. The monkey's name was Dave, by the way. I'll never forget the monkey's name. And he messaged me. I'm like, man, I want a monkey on my shoulder. That's freaking sweet.
Yeah.
Background, like that's life, right? That's what we all want. And pretty much tells me, he's like, hey, I sell pest control door to door for a company called Ecoshield, and I think you'd be good at it. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I was 23 at the time. So I'm like, hey, I'll give it a go. Let's see what happens. If I don't like it, I just go back to personal training. My first year, I didn't quite meet the expectations I wanted to do. Door-to-door sales is a lot harder than what I expected it to be. It's by far the hardest kind of sales that someone does. So I recommend everyone to give it a shot. It'll change your life. At the very least, it'll expose you to who you are. And I think that's one of the best things that someone can do. And years go by, and just growing, learning from trial and errors, learning from mentors. And like you said, my team's projected to do around $30 million in sales this summer. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it's pretty funny too, because we started out with door-to-door sales as well, on a much lower scale. But I mean, when we were in high school, we kind of got the idea to start mowing some lawns, making some extra gas money. And the first thing we did was printed out some flyers and just started going around door to door. And I know personally for me and Austin as well, the biggest thing that we learned was like communication skills with people. Like you really know how to read somebody. And at the same time, like, what kind of things to talk about, where it doesn't seem like you're selling a product, but you're actually like trying to help them out with different things. So would you say that a lot of the clients you have now are still the same door-to-door people that you knocked down when you first started? Or have you done different campaigns like on social media maybe as you've grown?
So we, in the company, we have our own social media department. My forte is door-to-door sales. So that's just what I stick to. And I love it. It's kind of crazy because I personally like to knock after myself, like the same neighborhoods year after year. Sometimes it nips me in the butt. Like sometimes people say like, hey, I remember you, I'm good. And like, all right. Later. Yeah. But a lot of times like familiarity brings trust. And if you have the trust that's already there, the sale is so much easier.
Exactly. And that's one thing we noticed too with the door-to-door. It's very situational. Like you can adapt what you say, whereas the social media, there's a lot of times like I'll just be scrolling, I'll see an ad for something, and it's kind of like it's a really tough marketing place because you really have to know what will click with people, especially with the short attention spans today. Whereas door-to-door, you're in their face, like not in their face, but you're in there in person with them, and it's a lot easier to kind of spread your message. And I guess to go off of that a little bit too, I know you mentioned in the first summer you fell a little short of your goal, which was 5 years ago. And in those 5 years, you've been able to grow yourself to an owner in the company. And now, like you said, you're looking at 30 million in revenue. And I kind of got that information too from your Instagram post I saw a couple of weeks ago, where you're talking about kind of where you started and how much you've grown and how much your outlooks has changed. And you shared a really powerful quote in that post, which was, we often overestimate what we can do in 1 year and we underestimate what we can do in 5 years. So when you first started, did you overestimate what you could do in that first year? And were you disappointed that you didn't meet your goal? Or did you know that you had that 5 year window, or you knew that in the long run that you had your mindset where you wanted to be?
It's that's a good question. So I definitely went into it expecting to do a lot more.
Okay.
However, falling short,
Mhm.
I don't think that really stopped me at all. I have a lot of intrinsic motivation. So my thought processes was, well, cool, next year, I'm just going to absolutely crush it. And
Exactly.
I didn't crush it. I did a little bit better. So third year, I'm just like, let's go, baby. This is my year. It wasn't my year. In fact, I did the same amount of revenue personally my third year that I did my second year. So in a way, no growth at all. That fourth year though, I call it my Chinese bamboo tree year, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Chinese bamboo tree, but when you plant this seed, it needs the right amount of sunlight and the right amount of water, and it's got to happen daily. And the first 4 years of watering that seed, there was no beyond soil level growth, none. It's still developing its roots. However, in that fifth year, it is the only plant that you can see with the naked eye, watch it grow.
Wow.
I think it grew up to 60
That's
feet
cool.
in a matter of a couple months.
That's crazy.
It's unreal. So I call it my Chinese bamboo tree year. So I went doing 150,000 in revenue, that's still decent. My third year with a team that did probably around 600,000 total. Then my fourth year, I did $435,000 in personal sales, and my team did 3.5 million. And then my fifth year was last year, and I'm going into my sixth summer right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely a huge growth. And I really like the metaphor with the bamboo tree too. That's really gets you thinking about it. And I guess to kind of move on to the next question too, when we first like when you and I first connected, it was actually, I think we randomly like added each other on Facebook, and you actually reached out to me asking if I was looking for a job with the Ecoshield, like you're kind of just reaching out to different young adults. And it's funny because we kind of are in the same boat with the Gas Money app, because all of the contractors on the app are 16 to 24-year-olds. So what kind of strategies did you use to motivate these young adults to kind of get onto your company and start selling pest control? And also, do you find that young adults are more motivated in general than other colleagues you've worked with, or does it just depend on the person?
I think motivation just kind of depends. Like, I think my oldest sales rep, he's 37 or 38 years old. And then my youngest is 17.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's an awesome range.
I think the motivation to just want to be better, I think that just depends on the person. I think it's in everyone. One, door-to-door sales is not for everyone. If every single person was designed to be a door-to-door salesman, our world would not function. So I'm very grateful that other people have different strengths in sales. So go repeat that question for me, because I think I went on a rabbit trail.
Oh, no, you're good. So I was just kind of wondering, like, what kind of strategies you used to get these kids, like, not these kids, but these young adults kind of recruited? Because, like, for me, you reached out on Facebook. Is that kind of what you did mostly, or?
Yeah. So I mean, growing up, so I was homeschooled K through 12. So naturally, I didn't have this massive network of friends that a lot of people have. So in terms of warm leads for recruiting a sales team, I kind of got the short end of the stick. So I had to kind of think out of the box. So Social media recruiting is huge. I put together a decent program for how to create relationships over social media. And I love, like, I get to meet awesome people like you guys. Like, you guys probably won't do door-to-door sales with Ecoshield. You guys have your own purpose and your own avenue, and I'm so freaking excited about it. But maybe in the future, we'll have a business together. Who knows? At the
Right.
least, a great network is always valuable. And then I also meet people at the gym. I work out every morning, a couple times a day sometimes. And then I'll have to eat with the wifey, like, just forever. If I see someone that seems like a capable person, and they seem like they have a natural ability to do sales, I'll bring it up. If it's for them, awesome. If it's not, awesome. So.
Awesome. Yeah, just another question too, to kind of go off with a young adult approach. This is kind of a little bit of a curveball, because I mean, obviously we definitely believe that young adults should jump into business as soon as possible in life, just because you can or entrepreneurship in some way, because you can learn so much from a young age. And even if you don't continue in business, you have so many skills that you can learn. But do you think, after all of your experience with young adults, do you think that there is an age range that maybe they shouldn't jump in to doing some kind of business? Or because people, I've talked to a bunch of people on similarly, like this question on the similarities between maybe the younger they get, the more that they're not going to be willing to work. But what are your thoughts on that? Just like, do you think as young as it goes, it doesn't matter the age? Or what are your thoughts?
So I think everyone has the ability to work. However, people are going to only work with something and work towards something that's aligned with their vision and with what they want. So I think if an employer or anyone is having trouble getting someone to work, the extreme ownership side of it, I'm huge on extreme ownership, isn't that they're a poor worker, but I think as a business owner, you've just done a poor job helping them identify with what they're doing right here will help them in the future. Because if it helps them in the future, like, who doesn't want a better future?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
everyone. So I think that connection just hasn't been made yet.
Exactly. And I think another cool thing that you had mentioned too is networking. Like, you were homeschooled, so you really had to kind of put yourself out there and network. And one of the things that we've noticed through networking, because obviously when we started out, we were pretty young, and we have a software company basically because we have the app on the app stores. That's our main thing. But at the same time, neither of us really understand technology in terms of like coding or developing an app. So we had to outsource that with a company and network with different app development companies, basically. So I guess on your journey, what kind of mentorships have you found through networking that have really stuck with you and helped you along your way?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I have like any mentors outside of who I work with.
Okay.
There's a few people, as soon as I got into the company, they really took me under their wing and have helped me a lot. The person that hired me, Jared Maverick, who's now my business partner, he and I are almost the same exact age, 5 days apart.
Oh, wow.
And I still consider him, like, in a lot of ways, a mentor. Then there's like Alan Cooley, who's a legend in the door-to-door industry. Then there's Mike Saltel, and the list goes on. That in different areas, they all have their strengths, and they've helped mentor me and help me become the leader I am, the husband and the father that I am.
That's awesome. Yeah. And we've found a lot of mentors too come up in the weirdest places. One of our big mentors is actually Austin's cousin that lives out in Texas. His name's RJ. And we were randomly, I think it was sometime in 2020, we were randomly just sitting on the couch in Austin's basement trying to brainstorm ideas for gas money. And RJ works at a tech company. He's a pretty high up position in that company. And we were like, hey man, like if anybody's going to know what we should do for this app, like why don't we just reach out to RJ and see what's up. Like Austin hadn't really talked to him before. He was just a random relative, basically, like somebody that's long distance, you don't really talk to him much. And Austin sent him a text, and like 5 minutes later he responded, and we were able to set up a call. And if we hadn't talked to him that day, he actually told us what app to use to kind of start networking with different companies, which is called Upwork. And that's what we ended up doing. And that's how we found the company that we worked with. And basically, if we wouldn't have sent that text, I don't think we would have been where we are today in terms of the app and everything. So I just thought it was funny, kind of how that kind of stuff works out. Like if you wouldn't have went to Chicago, like who knows where you'd be right now. So that's another thing too, I guess, kind of going off of that. That kind of goes a little bit of hand in hand with manifestation. I know a lot of business-minded people believe in manifestation. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on it, but it sounds like you're kind of that guy where you put your goals out there and you don't know how necessarily what your pathway is going to be to get to those goals, but you know that you're going to achieve them. Is that kind of the case for you?
Yeah. So I'll kind of use the car method, right? Like when you get a new car, you start to see that car just everywhere, right? Like, man,
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one that had this car.
Yep.
Everyone and their mom and brother have this car. What in the world?
Exactly.
It's because your brain now knows what to look for. So what you think about, what you put out there, it's not just that it magically appears, but you're rewiring your brain to identify what needs to be done to hit these goals that you've set. So it's not just like this magic potion, like, oh, I'm going to say I'm going to do $30 million this summer and poof, it happens. That's just not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
My mind is just always looking and identifying, even on a subconscious level, what needs to happen in order to achieve it.
Yeah, that's really cool. And a lot of people too, I mean, they'll say like, oh no, manifestation is not real. And I think it's because, like you said, a lot of people think it's just a magical thing. And it really is rewiring your brain, because when you manifest a goal that you have or something that you want to achieve, like it causes you to think about it all the time. And just like you were saying with the new car thing, there's a ton of Equinoxes around Michigan. That's what I drive. So my family's a big Chevy family. And like I didn't even notice it when I first started driving, but I'll literally be driving and I'll see like 5 around me at a time. And it's like, I'd never noticed that before. So it's just kind of crazy how that works. And another thing I really like about you and your company and your brand is it's really family oriented. I've noticed, like you're always posting about different guys in your company or girls that are doing different things that you really like and find impressive. And I think it's really cool how you guys kind of have that family structure. So has that always been how it is, or was that kind of developed throughout your years as you were in Ecoshield?
So that's, I don't think culture just is something that happens.
Okay.
It's always something that needs developing. It's like a muscle. The
Mm-hmm.
more you exercise it, and even in a lot of ways, even if something negative happens within the culture, how you respond to it, it ends up building so much more. It's just any kind of trust with a team and between people. Conflict is a good thing. And I think what we've done really well in our culture is, one, we all share the same vision. And we all believe in our mission statement. And as a team, as a whole company, our mission statement is, in everything we do, we believe in propelling you to the next level of your life. So I understand when I hire someone, they probably won't be a bug guy for the rest of their life. I get it. It's not that sexy of an occupation. I'm glad I'm not on Tinder these days in my bio saying I sell pest control. I would get 0 swipe rates. So thankfully I'm married. She just has to live with it. But I get that a lot of people have other ideas, have other purposes. But as a whole team, we believe like if they can leave our system saying, I'm a better person because of them, then we've done our job. We want them to make money, so we like to pay them a lot. We like to teach them a skill set that is going to take them far beyond their peers. If you can master communication, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want.
For
And then we
sure.
like to provide just a family-like, brotherhood-like culture. The door-to-door industry is very male-dominated, but that's definitely, I can definitely sense that transition happening. So you can't really say brotherhood as much anymore, but so family-like culture.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we hold each other accountable to always be growing, and people want growth.
Awesome. I really like that. And I guess to kind of go off
That's,
that, go ahead, Austin.
I was just gonna say it's crazy, kind of how similar, what we're trying to do with gas money. Kind of obviously we know, as a young adult through high school or even in college, you're not gonna be mowing lawns for the rest of your life, and we really hope that you don't. But it's one of those things too, all of the things that you can learn by, throwing yourself into uncomfortable situations that you're not going to get all the time from a fast food job or, a grocery store stocking job. Forcing yourself to talk to clients, forcing yourself to fix something that you may have messed up on a job, and, being honest with yourself and with others and all of those things that come with it. I think, all of those things are can propel you, like you said, way past your peers, from a very, very early time. And like you said, your oldest is 38, I believe you said, and youngest at 17. Even that age range, there's a lot of life left, and in a lot of different things that you can do in life, and use those skills to, be one step ahead of, your peers in life. So that's awesome. You guys are doing that.
Yeah, and I guess another thing to bring up too, you said, like, I mean, you work with pest control. A lot of people at a first glance will be like, oh man, like that's no big deal. Like he's just out here selling pest control. And a lot of times we see that with gas money, like especially from like our peers and stuff. Like they're like, oh, like these guys, I mean, they've got a local landscaping company, that's pretty cool. And it's like, well, like it's a little more than that, like, because we know within ourselves, like our mission is about helping young adults learn skills in leadership, communication, accountability. And that's kind of how we've really tried to make our company culture. And just like you guys, at the face value, it looks like it's just pest control. But when you really look into it, it's like you said, it's a brotherhood. And I think that's awesome. And I think a lot of more companies should do that. And I guess I had a question too. So when you started with Ecoshield, you weren't like an owner when you started, were you?
No, I was
Okay.
just a normal door-to-door sales rep.
And then you just basically worked your way up throughout the
Yeah,
years.
yeah. So there's no like politics to this. Like, it's just if you do A, B, and C, then you'll get D. So
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty simple. When you get hired as a sales rep and you sell a certain amount, just to prove that you can sell and that we trust that you can train people how to sell, and you show leadership qualities, we invite you to our management program. At that point, you have the opportunity to start creating your own sales team, right? And then when you hit a certain point, like in revenue that your team will do in a summer, which is right now it's $1.5 million in a summer, and you show leadership qualities, that's got to be there. You're then you have the opportunity to partner, and that's when you start getting like the K1, the profit sharing, the distributions. So I tell a lot of people, like, you can get rich selling pest control in the summer. I mean, I have guys that
Mhm.
made 400 grand plus in 4 months on pest control. And then,
Wow.
but if you want to get wealthy, then you got to learn how to duplicate yourself. You got to learn how to lead. And that's where management and
Mhm.
ownership comes in.
That's awesome. And
Right.
when you say
And
duplicate yourself too, just to go real quick, I like that that kind of, I don't know, phrase or metaphor, just kind of the idea of duplicating yourself. Because with Austin and I, that's really in a way what we're trying to do, not necessarily ourselves, but kind of the motivation that we've kind of developed through gas money, and also like the skills that we've learned. it would be so awesome if there was a way like you could just like duplicate mindset motivation, but obviously you can't. And it sounds like with you guys, you have those programs set up to kind of inspire and incentivize people to become more motivated. And I guess another quick question too, for those incentives, it sounds like mostly like it's based on incentives and commissions, right? I would imagine
Yeah, it's
commission based. Yeah.
there's nothing about this job that's salary or hourly.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome because when we were setting up Gas Money, we had to decide if we wanted to hire our contract or our workers as contractors or employees. And we ended up going with contractors in that commission based model because with an employee, if you have an hourly wage, you're basically setting a cap on your earning potential. Like if you're only going to make $20 an hour, whether you mow 2 lawns or whether you mow 5 lawns, you're always going to mow 2 lawns because there's no real incentive to mow the extra 3 if you're getting paid the same. And I think that's what's super cool about how our company's set up and also how Ecoshield is set up with the commission, because it really inspires people to work harder because each time you get that new sale and get that new client, that's another dollar in your pocket. And that's also another person that's going to spread Ecoshield. So I think that's really cool how you guys have that set up.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome program.
Yeah. And kind of just going back a little bit, switching gears. I'm just really curious, and we ask, everybody that comes on here, can you kind of pinpoint, and I know obviously, you've done a lot of things in the last few years, but can you kind of pinpoint, I mean, what started, that entrepreneurial mind or that business mindset in your path? Was it like reading a certain book, watching a certain movie or a certain experience that you had?
It's hard to pinpoint.
Mhm.
I think it's something that's like increasingly developing. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of times while people don't want to take an entrepreneurship route or a job that you're not told what you're worth, like you're not told like, hey, you're worth $20 an hour. Here you go.
Mhm.
Go do what I tell you to do. Where you actually got to go out and earn for yourself.
Right.
I think a lot of it just stems from like belief. Like I don't believe I'm worth more than $20 an hour, so of course I'm going to take $20 an hour.
Mhm.
But if you were offered the same exact job for $21 an hour, they'd be like, "Oh heck yeah, it's $1 more. Now I'm worth 21." So people
Right.
always want to earn more. I think what lacks is people's belief in themselves that they can control that.
Mhm.
So I think just as I've grown as a person, my belief has also increased. Um, when I first got into the company, well, actually, when I was at Lifetime Fitness, I was given a book by one of the managers, he's one of the few people that I still keep in touch with from being employed there. He gave me a book called "Winning with People" by John C. Maxwell, and that was the first book that gave me a real taste of what personal development is like. And I'm just like, ooh, I like this. I want to grow as a person because I'm a big believer that your success will never outgrow your character. So if you want to reach a certain level in business or in whatever you're doing, it all starts off with your character. And then as I got in the
Mhm.
company, what really lit a fire under me is 10X by Grant Cardone. Uh, Grant Cardone does a lot of good
Okay.
things. There's some things that I'm just like, yeah, I mean, he's really good at what he does.
Mhm.
And this book,
Mhm.
it's like the pre-workout for books. Like if you just want to get freaking fired
Mhm.
up and just like want to run through a brick wall, that is the book. So
Awesome.
I think it probably all started about 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
Me actually do more than what I was accepting.
Awesome. And I guess to kind of go
That's
off that
awesome.
as well, might be a little bit of a curveball question, but as you've kind of grown, a lot of I guess to go off of this, a lot of our people that we work with obviously are young adults, like 16, 24 years old. And once you start reaching more towards 24, a lot of young adults think about starting a family. And I know you recently started a family, and kind of how has your role as a father impacted your mindset about like motivation and success? Has that changed it at all, or have you found that it's kind of remained the same and just grown throughout the years?
Um, so I've always believed, to steal a quote from Grant Cardone, it is my ethical obligation to be wildly successful. Because I know there's people in my life at some point they're going to need me. They're going to need me to be.
Mhm.
Um, so taking that belief, then getting married, that was a huge motivation shift, right? Like now I'm
For
just not
sure.
working for me, I'm working for my wife.
Mm.
And then having a
Right.
kid, guys, when people say there's nothing like a love than a love for your kid, it is so real. I love my wife. She's one of my best friends. I would do anything for her, but I would throw her in front of a bullet for my son. Yeah, if I couldn't throw myself first,
Mhm.
obviously,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Having a kid is a whole
Yeah.
new level of love and just self-evaluation of what you're doing with life. So, um, in a lot of ways, I'm hungrier than ever, because I'm really passionate about leaving a legacy. So my entire sales team, we're the legacy team. I'm really passionate about creating a team, creating a culture, um, creating something bigger than ourselves, while also allowing other people to make their own pathway.
Mhm.
Um, so, um, yeah, having a kid adds a lot. I don't recommend
Yeah.
everyone going out and
Right, I
having a kid
bet.
and getting motivated, right? Like have a kid at the right time. But,
Right.
it's it yeah, it's unreal. However, I'm very
Yeah.
thankful because I'm really good at work. Like I can teach anyone how to sell. Uh, I think I can, with my business partners, like they help me a lot. Create a really good culture. I think if we went to a business that was failing, we could transform that business just on the cultural level to make it a profit machine. Uh, that being
Mhm.
said, so I'm really good at that stuff. However, I'm not that good at separating work and family. So that's where my wife comes in. I
That's
love
what
her to death because she holds me accountable. She'll just straight up say, "Hey, Ethan, we need you to be a dad right now." I'm like, "Ooh, you're right. I'm gonna be a dad right now." Or she's like, "Ethan,
that's what
we haven't gone on a date in a while. Like, we should do that." I get that hint. All right, we'll go do that.
Yeah.
there you go. That's what I was gonna ask next. A lot of this too at a young age, how hungry you are and ambitious. What are your thoughts, I guess, on work-life balance? And, it sounds like you're still trying to learn that, obviously. And, how beneficial, I guess you could say, is that, to you mentally and basically everything about your life, that's probably a big switch, I would think.
So I'm gonna say something pretty controversial right here. Balance is impossible.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
and balance is also very relative, right? Like balance to me is totally different uh, to someone else. Um, so I think what people like us that we need to do is we just need to be where our feet are. So when I'm working, I'm not thinking about my family. Like I need to be focused on work. Um, Productive is way better than busy. When I'm with my family, I can't be thinking about work. My son needs me. My wife needs me in that moment. So I don't know what balance means to you. For me, it means I need to be where my feet are. And I think to a lot of people,
Yeah.
it's going to look very unbalanced, but that's okay.
Mhm. Yeah, and I agree a lot. I think balance can be very situational. And I think another good way to handle balance is to find like a form of meditation. For me, and I think you could agree, I think working out is a very meditative thing to do. And I guess to kind of go off of that, I know you started as the fitness trainer. You work out, you said even multiple times a day sometimes. Would you say that's your meditation to kind of help your mind either transition from work mode into family mode, or kind of find yourself and find that balance that you need?
Yeah, so I get asked all the time, like by guys on my team, like, hey, can we get a workout in together? I love you, but no.
Mhm.
That's my me time. And the entire day, that is the only time where it's just me. And I'll be honest, I don't even listen to music when I'm working out. I'll put in my headphones, usually nothing playing. The headphones are just to sound like, hey, don't talk to me, like I'm working
Yeah,
out. Um, but usually there's nothing on, and I'm just me and my thoughts, just enjoying my presence.
I love that.
So yeah, working out is my me time, because when I'm at during the day, I got asked earlier today by one of my best friends. He owns a fitness business, and he's just like, Ethan, how many calls do you take a week? I'm like, well, scheduled calls probably around 50 to 60, but how many calls I actually field, probably around 125 ish.
Wow.
It's just like every day or all day, every day, I just get calls from everyone. Uh, so,
Mhm.
and then when I'm not feeling those, when I'm not working, I'm with my wife and my son. So, working out,
Right.
that's my time.
Yeah, exactly. And here's another question too. When you go to the gym and work out, or when you want to designate like family time, do you like put your phone on do not disturb, or how do you handle the calls then? Since you get so many.
Yeah. So, Google Calendar is we're like this. Like,
Hmm.
I have everything planned out. Uh, I have date nights planned out. I have time with Braxton planned out. I have calls, everything planned out, so that I know where I need to be at exactly what time. Um, that being said, sometimes I have to take calls. Like when you're a business owner and you have hundreds of people that need you and sometimes rely on you. Like I have a lot of partners that and managers that I can delegate stuff to, but sometimes they get a question and they need me. So I have to be accessible. However, I've kind of set up a program with them. Pretty much, if you're a business if you're one of my, if you're on the partner level with us and you call me, I will always answer. Everyone else, you can text me first, and I promise I have my phone on me, and I'll read it. If it's urgent, I'll call you or I'll respond immediately. If it's not urgent, I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Awesome. And yeah, it's important to set up boundaries like that, because if you didn't, then there would be no balance. It would basically be all work. And we've kind of found that too with when we first started out, we actually gave out our personal numbers. Our business card said gas money on it, and then it had two different numbers you can call, Robert and Austin. And it was probably a big mistake we made, because we both still get a ton of calls from clients on our personal lines, even though we've had a business line for over a year and a half. But at the same time, those same clients that call us are actually like some of the best clients we have in terms of like relationships and stuff. So I guess it's kind of a blessing in disguise, because you really, a phone call every day, you can really connect with somebody.
Yeah. Another thing too, my whole team knows Sunday is family day.
I like that.
Like that, I don't schedule anything on Sundays. Like that's when my wife and I will take Braxton to the park. It's when we'll have a date night. We'll get a babysitter, watch Braxton. We'll go do our thing. Like Sundays, that's our day.
And I think, yeah,
That's awesome.
it's important to set
It's
aside.
really good to have. Yeah, and the next thing, this is just I think we follow each other on Facebook. I saw you just posted on your Facebook story not too long ago. I think you're on vacation or something, but you were flying private, and I don't know if you want to talk about that or tell the story, or I don't know if you do that all the time or how that works, but that's obviously a huge goal of Robert and I's, and I feel like a lot of other people, but how does that go hand in hand with your goal achievement? And also, how does that feel, I guess?
Yeah. So flying private, it's pretty awesome. It's
Yeah.
no TSA. You hand them your bags and you just walk up the plane. That was my first time.
Wow.
And so it was unreal. And understand social media, right? Like, so one of my business partners, who's one of the founders of the company, so he's been in a lot longer than I have. So he paid for the jet, and he's just like, "Hey, you want to come?" I'm like, "Heck yeah, I do." I canceled my other flight. I was on it. So
There you go.
however, it opened my eyes. I'm like, wow. You could see like his name's Gaines McCulloch, who's, I mean, he's unreal. One of the best human beings I've ever met. And he got so much joy for providing a really cool experience for his friends. And to me, I'm just like, man, in a couple years, I'm gonna be taking my friends on a private jet. Like now that is just like, it's just one more thing on that pin board. I'm like, I'm gonna take my friends on a private jet.
That's
And
awesome.
private jets actually aren't bad. So we went from Vegas to Phoenix. It was only like $8,000. Like,
Okay,
I
so
was amazed. I'm
yeah,
like,
Yeah, not crazy.
yeah.
that's awesome. And I
Yeah.
guess to kind of go off that too, Austin and I recently went down to Fort Lauderdale for the spring break that we had. Well, my spring break, because Austin's not in college anymore, but we all went down, got an Airbnb. And when we're on the beach, man, there's so much money down there. Like we saw a couple Lambos drive by, some Bentleys, Rolls Royce, like just to get that taste of like what it's like to be successful. Like all those people like look so happy. And I mean, when it comes to success, Austin and I, and I'm sure you feel the same way, it's not even really about the money. It's more of making an impact on as many people as you can. And that's why we decided to take gas money to where we are right now. And that's why we have so many big goals for the company, because yeah, money is cool. Flying private definitely sounds like it'd be awesome. Can't wait to try it out one day. But I mean, at the end, like what you were talking about, your team's called the legacy team. And I think legacy is a huge part of really finding your purpose in life and also becoming successful. So how would you say, I mean, I already know the answer to this, but kind of calling your team the legacy team almost manifested your guys' goals as making a legacy for yourselves and impacting as many people as possible. Would you say that's true?
Oh, 100%. So when it comes to culture, you have it. Culture can just be broken down to a group of people with the same vision. And when everyone shares that same vision, to hold everyone accountable and to everyone give themselves a belief, you have to have one thing, and that's identity.
Mm-hmm.
So the legacy team, that is simply just an identity for the ultimate purpose. Everyone on legacy team having the identity, especially the new guys that come in, being able to attach themselves to something greater than themselves. I think it's a huge benefit.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then another question too that we like to ask guests is, I feel like most successful people, if not all, have experienced failure before. And that's kind of one of those things where when you have a failure, as long as you learn from it, that turns that mistake into a lesson. And one of my favorite quotes is, there's no mistakes in life ever, it's only lessons. And that comes from Big Sean, but there's a lot of different people who have said things along those lines. But what are some of the biggest, if not one of the biggest failures that you've had in your life or obstacles you've had to overcome? And what did you learn from that?
So I'm one of those people, like, when a failure happens, I'm just like, in our industry, it's just, all right, next door, what do I got to do? I mean, I think every year I've fallen short of a goal. So last year, my team did $10 million in sales, which is phenomenal.
Wow.
And a 3x goal, it might seem audacious, but broken down into numbers, we're actually on pace to hit it. But my goal last year was actually 13 million. That doesn't stop me. Like, all
Mm,
right, cool. A goal, like I'm not attached to goals at all. So I think maybe that's why failure doesn't bother me,
okay.
because I don't, the goal is simply just, it's a, it's a map, right? Like if you don't have a goal, you don't have direction. So that's all goals are to me. It just provides direction. So my goal this year is to do 30 million. If I do 27 million, I'm not going to be mad, because I know that either one, I did everything that I could to hit the $30 million goal, and for some reason it fell short. Or two, I didn't do everything that I could, and that's why I fell short. Either way, I love it because I know I can take ownership of it and I can change what I need to change so that I can hit my goal. So, in terms of falling
Exactly.
short, it happens, but you just got to detach the emotions between yourself and the goal. And anymore.
And I feel like you were saying too, I mean, since you do so much door to door, I mean, you guys are working with those failures, a lot every single day. If you count, a person saying, no, I'm sorry, I don't want this. You can count that as a failure, but it's, very, very minuscule. So your failure tolerance is like extremely high because you guys, deal with that all the time. But that's what you got to do, is just put that behind you and, keep moving forward and go to the next door. I guess one more thing that we always like to ask guests too. What is, obviously you've already put out, a ton of advice and great points. But is there, the biggest piece of advice or a couple pieces of advice for the listeners? A lot of our listeners are between, 16 and 24, 25 years old. Just for, the younger generations. And I don't know if it's from somebody that, has given you the advice or just what you want to put out there.
I mean, there's a lot of cliche things that you could say, right? Like, work really hard.
Right.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. No.
It's I mean, there's a ton of good things to say. Going back to the quote, your success will never outgrow your character. And there's another quote I think that ties right into it. The teacher will appear when the student is ready. So you look back for centuries, everyone has someone that played a mentor role to them. However, you got to be ready for that mentor. So start on developing yourself. If you don't have a direct mentor right now, read books. The average blue collar worker, you guys know how many books the average blue collar worker reads a year? 0.5.
Wow.
Not a lot. Yeah.
The average amount of books that a CEO of a Fortune 500 company reads, 60. Like,
Big
that's
difference.
Yeah, wow.
If you want to be successful, you got to read some books. And there's so many places to start. And what I love about self-help books or personal development books is it's usually at the end of the books, they'll give other books of other authors to read. So there's no bad place to start, but you got to start with yourself. If you want to be successful, it starts with you. It doesn't start on a lucky opportunity. People aren't just lucky into success. They had to make it happen. People hate on Donald Trump for getting $1 million gift from his dad to start a business. $1 million is a lot of money, but now he's worth billions. He over 100x'd it, like 1,000x'd it. He over 1,000x'd it.
Yeah.
Like, he still had to make it happen. You could even hate on what's that one of the Kardashians. I don't know their names. I just know one of the younger ones, she's a billionaire, like through a makeup company or something. She had to make that happen. Like, your success, like it's on you. And that's awesome because now you know you control it. So start with personal development and then also master your mindset. There's going to be a lot of good and a lot of bad things that happen. I think the best business people are able to stay what we call neutral. So what I teach on the doors is bad thoughts are bad, good thoughts are good, but no thoughts are best. So if you really want to be successful, don't get emotional. Just be logical. Don't worry about not being negative. I think it's important. Never speak a negative word. If you never say anything negative, you're setting yourself up for success. But if you're able to stay mentally neutral, optimistic, but neutral, I think, again, the world's your oyster.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that so much.
Thanks
I
for
mean,
that.
that was awesome. And it really does come down to mindset and just staying positive and keeping negative thoughts out of your head. And that's what Austin and I have tried to do with Gas Money. That's kind of what we're trying to spread as we continue growing. And it's obvious. I mean, you've already got that figured out, and it sounds like you guys are going to do some awesome things in the next years. And I'm super stoked to see what you guys get done. So we're at the time now. We're ready to wrap up the podcast. First of all, Ethan, thank you so much for coming on. This has been awesome. You've dropped some huge value bombs on everybody. And I'm sure like anybody out there listening, especially young adults, are going to get something from this podcast. And that's what we're trying to do, is just kind of spread our message, spread your message, and just kind of help the younger generations learn more about what it takes to be a leader. And I guess before we go, this is your time to kind of plug your own socials, where people can find you, Ecoshield, any links that you want to provide or socials, go for it right now.
Yeah, so Instagram's the one I probably use the most. So just at Ethan Bodker, EthanBodtker. I'll hit you with that follow back. So don't worry, your follower ratio will still stay good. But yeah, I love connecting with people. And you'll kind of be able to see what I do. And thank you guys for doing this podcast. I think a sign of a great leader is always seeking to add value to others. And your guys' passion for doing that is like, it motivates me, it inspires and empowers me, liberates me. So thank you guys for doing what you're doing. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you. It means a lot to
Appreciate
us.
that.
And,
Appreciate that.
yeah, and we're gonna keep going for it. So we love seeing what you do too. Don't stop posting on social media. Keep putting those private jet pictures on there, because it makes me hungry
Keeps us
to
going.
get to that point. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll definitely keep in touch. Maybe get you back on the podcast too, sometime again soon. See how your progress has been. And as we always say at the end of our podcast, everybody, go get that gas money.